Hey guys, welcome to TRUUU Podcast. I'm your host, Drea.
And I'm Alex.
And this week we're talking about something that is kind of controversial. We're talking about the astrological signs / zodiac signs that we have been assigned at birth.
I love how you put it that way.
Well, it's true, right? Like, we don't get to choose it. It's just like when you're born, you're automatically given this supposed personality.
Yeah, I suppose so. All dependent on what time of year you were born.
Exactly. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of hokey, but it's kind of fun, which is kind of bringing us to the beginning of our podcast where we're going to talk about what astrology means to us separately.
Right.
So go ahead, Alex. Tell us what astrology means to you.
See, and I could talk about this a little bit more later, like once we get into like the characteristics of our different signs. I don't feel like I have a relationship at all with it in the sense of I think it's kind of all a bunch of hooey.
Okay. Which
Mostly
is fair.
Huh? Yeah.
Which is fair, yeah.
Because, like, you think about, I mean, this might be a little bit controversial to bring up now, but, like, you think about how people, you know, sort themselves into Harry Potter houses.
Uh-huh.
And, like, how those have, like, defining characteristics as well, like, personality-wise.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that, really, most people are a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you read these descriptions of, you know, different things, I think that you'll find yourself in a lot of these things.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
There's probably some that you're just like, no, this is not at all me, but for the most part, I think that if you're open to it, if your mind is open to it, you would relate to it regardless.
Agreed.
So that's why, to me, just kind of like, I don't take a bunch of stock in it. You know, it's not at all my thing. I think that it's kind of funny every once in a while to bring up. And I know that, like, there's an app that you had me download, which we'll talk about later, you know, just for funsies, just to see, like, how we all related to each other with our signs and stuff. And
yeah.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah, so, like, for me, it's kind of the same, where, like, I really don't buy into the zodiac. I personally, okay, here's the thing. I don't buy into zodiac, but I do buy into, like, the power of, like, energies and, like, putting out into the universe what you, like, believe and what you want to happen and, like, la la la. So I feel like the zodiac is a cool way for a lot of people to kind of, like, have a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they read like, oh, this month I'm gonna find the love of my life, you know, and all of a sudden they're like acting more social, or they're like looking for more people, and you know, just kind of that thing. Like, I feel like it's a good way for people to make it happen as opposed to like it's gonna happen, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty good way of looking at it, in the sense of, don't, like, I guess maybe in your view, not being ruled by what something says, but it makes you more open-minded to, like, possibilities in life.
I really like how you said not being ruled, because that's like a phrase that's used so much in horoscopes. Like, you're being ruled by this, or like this is ruling you today. Yeah. I don't know if you even know that, but like it's really commonly used.
I do kind of know that, and that's kind of like one of the reasons why I kind of openly rebel against this sort of stuff, because I'm just like, I don't believe in fortune telling.
You're like, no one can rule me.
And I'm just like, yeah, I'm just like, what someone types in on the internet or whatever, it has no bearing on what my life is actually like.
Here's the thing, too. I want to know who's writing horoscopes.
For real, right?
Like, are they just literally sitting at their computer being like, yes, like, Capricorns are really going to have a prosperous month this month, you know? Like, what is this?
And see, there's the thing, too, because, you know, there's, like, I'm sure that across, you know, the internets, there's a ton of, you know, sources of, like, horoscopes and whatever, and I'm pretty sure no two are the same for the same sign, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, that kind of, to me, lends to how it's not very credible, because there's not a consensus along, like, a certain sign.
I feel like maybe somebody who's really knowledgeable in this can, like, really fact check us here, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe it is really consistent, and maybe the people who are writing horoscopes are doing, like, their due diligence to, like, look at the stars being aligned and, like, whatever. Shocked. I would be shocked, too. But, like, maybe, you know, I'm putting it out there that we could be wrong. This is just our opinion. And, yeah. Okay, so we have not really mentioned so much, like, our birth dates. Like, we've talked about, like, you know, like, experiences in the past and, like, our long stories of growing up, whatever. But we've never really talked about our birthdays in particular.
Right.
And so we both have significant birth dates.
Right?
Were you thinking, like, why is mine significant?
Yeah.
Mine is very significant in a negative way.
Is it?
Yes. So my birthday is April 15, and it is tax day.
Oh.
It is also the day that Abraham Lincoln died. It is also the day the Titanic sank. And it was also the peak of coronavirus deaths this year. So, really a great day,
Sorry, that was an
guys.
insensitive laugh, but that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a terrible birthday to have. And then Alex, obviously, I think we have mentioned her birthday. It's
Probably.
November 1st, which is Day of the Dead.
Yeah, and day after Halloween, so forever kind of
Significant.
salty a little bit Halloween because of that.
I guess.
It was hard to have parties growing up, you don't understand.
Talk to my sister.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Anyways, my sister's born
Sorry,
on
Danielle.
Christmas Eve. Anyway, so, okay, so being that my birthday is in April 15th specifically, I am an Aries, which is a fire sign, and Alex?
I am a Scorpio, which is a water sign.
Is it a water sign?
Yes.
I had no idea. See, here's another thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people who are really into, like, astrology are always like, oh, you're such a water sign. Oh, you're such an Aquarius, whatever, you know? I could never say that because other than my sign, I have no idea what another sign is. Like, no concept.
Right. I mean, absolutely not. And I have really no idea, like, what makes something a fire sign or a water sign or a whatever, so...
Yeah, agreed.
I'm just as clueless. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I was actually looking up before we started this podcast, I was just looking up, like, why, like, what makes Aries a fire sign, you know? And, like, it didn't really give me anything, but...
Which is so funny, because, I mean, not that this is at all related, because 100% it isn't. But, like, when we were in college, everyone was so gung-ho that I was Fire Nation.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
So I'm Fire Nation, but I'm a water sign.
And here's the thing, for, like, the way that I am, my personality, like, if we're talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender, I would be an earthbender. Like, I'm very much, like, grounded and, like, you know, like, my roots and this, and whatever. And you are also, like, a fire sign. But, like, in astrology, apparently we're not.
Yep.
Which, what does water sign even mean? Do you know?
I think that once we start reading off our
You're right.
stuff, it will get into it.
You're right. Okay, so why don't I go first?
I don't know. I could Google it while you're talking about it.
You're right. Okay, so why don't I go first? We're just going to read one... Okay, and this is just one website's description of an Aries, okay? So like we said, many descriptions. This is the one I found. Okay, so to be an Aries, you have to be born between March 21st and April 19th. I barely made the cutoff. Okay, so Aries love to be number one. So it's no surprise that these audacious rams are the first sign of the zodiac, which is another thing. Like, we're assigned animals.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all I have to say about it. It's just we're assigned animals? Question mark. Okay, so I am the first sign of the zodiac, which is also weird. Like, why does the zodiac start in March?
Well, and I feel like this is where, like, it gets really nitpicky, because then is it, like, really, really and truly the zodiac? Because, like, in the Chinese zodiac, for example, I'm a rooster.
Oh, yeah. Well, is that called the zodiac? The Chinese?
Yeah, that's called the zodiac.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a dog.
Right.
I much prefer being a dog than a ram.
So, I mean, we're talking strictly astrological signs here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anyway, sorry. Okay, bold and ambitious, Aries dives headfirst into even the most challenging situations, which is appropriate since the body part associated with Aries is the head, which is a weird sentence to read. Okay, like their fellow fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius, Aries is a passionate, motivated, and confident leader who builds community with their cheerful disposition and relentlessness determination. Uncomplicated and direct in their approach, they often get frustrated by exhaustive details and unnecessary nuances. They like things quick and dirty, a temperament also reflected in their sexual proclivities, excuse me. Which, okay, so this is the first little segment. There's like 4 segments to this thing, or something like that. And to be honest with you, I do agree with this. Like, I do find myself very, like, motivated, ambitious. Like, I'm very, like, headstrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I do agree with this part. Okay, let's move on to the second. I mean, quick and dirty in their sexual proclivities, that's a weird sentence. I don't even know what that means.
See, and that's the thing. I don't like that this is, like, incorporated into it at all.
Like, like, your sexual life?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Aries is a cardinal sign that kicks off not only the spring season, but also the entire zodiac wheel. Astrologers believe that each sign learns the lessons absorbed by its preceding signs, both joyful and painful. In the case of Aries, however, there is no inherent wisdom. Aries leads with blind optimism, barreling through life with an electric joie de vivre. Did I say that right? Joie de vivre. That perfectly complements their distinctive impulsivity. I disagree with that. I'm not impulsive, but I do agree with the fact that I'm just very like, oh, I'll figure it out myself.
Yeah.
Okay, these fire signs think after they leap. No, I don't agree with. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to read this. Which often results in lessons learned the hard way. Aries represents the singular spirit, while Aries' opposite sign, Libra, symbolizes partnership. These rams adhere to an every person for themselves philosophy. Super disagree with that. I'll get to it in a minute. While the self-determination can be inspiring, Aries need to watch out for selfish tendencies. Okay, so my comments here real fast.
Right.
I totally can admit that I can be selfish in a lot of situations. I mean, everyone has to be, like, self-aware in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am so not with the whole, like, singular spirit, like, self-determination, one-person mindset. Like, if anyone knows me, I am such a socialist. Like, it is crazy. And I'm just like, no. Not all for one for all.
Well, I will say that, like, especially when it comes to, like, your friends and family, like, you're very selfless in that way. Like, you like to give.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like,
like
Christmas is a
stuff,
sport for me.
Right.
100%. So I'm like, okay, I feel like this thing started off strong and just kind of like crashing really fast. Okay, my last little segment here. This sign is ruled by Mars, the dynamic red planet named after the Roman god of war. Accordingly, these courageous rams are always armed and ready for battle. Aries is known for an explosive temper, and although their outbursts don't last long, it's definitely best to avoid fiery rams until the steam has dissipated. That's a visual. But when these brazen rams are not flying off the handles, they're upbeat, positive, and playful creatures who enjoy living life to its fullest. You can always be sure to spot an Aries excelling on the sports field, speeding down the highway, or organizing a vibrant party game. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Like, they could not have pinned me on the head better.
Right.
So, yeah, okay. So, it was just really that one section that I'm very much like, this is not me. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I actually kind of agree with it for the most part.
Sure.
How about, what would you say?
I mean, that last part definitely was very you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like someone met me and
then wrote this. You're a major athlete. You're always organizing the parties.
Yeah, 100%. Not even, yeah. And just a comment on the speeding down the highway. I'm going to tell that story I told you last week, Alex, really fast. Okay, so we're going to, quick side note, we were going to originally record this podcast maybe like a week ago, was it? I don't know. We talked about doing this podcast like 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
And the day that we were going to record the next podcast or something like that, I don't even know what the situation was. I had read in my little horoscope app, which we will talk about in a minute, that one of the things I should avoid that day was highways. And so here in California, when we think highway, we think freeway, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure in most states, a highway is like a 2-lane road, right?
I guess maybe.
I'm pretty sure that's what a highway is technically considered. So, that being in mind, it said that I should avoid highways. So when I was leaving work to go to lunch at my mom's house, I was going to take the freeway, and I was like, oh, no, I should avoid highways. I'm going to take the road. Mind you, the road to get to my mother's house is a 2-lane road that's, like, windy and crazy, okay? Mm-hmm. Technically, it's a highway, technically, by the definition, which, I don't know. You can look that up right now, Alex, for me. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But anyways, so I go to my mom's house, and then on the way back to work, I'm driving down this little road, and right before, like, I get to, like, there's, like, this overpass of the freeway, this car cuts me off. And I'm like, stupid car, whatever. And then I have to slow down, and then eventually they turn into this, like, this parking lot, whatever. And I'm like, how annoying. I had to slow down. So now I'm driving up, and as I'm approaching the intersection, mind you, as I'm driving down the road, I'm looking at the intersection. The light is green for me to go. And I'm going to make a left here on this intersection. So I'm just like, okay, so I'm driving up to the intersection, driving up to it. And as soon as I'm about to enter the intersection, a car going the other way, like perpendicular to me, like down the road that's red, blows through the red light and just completely just like boom goes through the intersection. And I'm like, holy moly, if that car had not stopped me and made me slow down, like if they hadn't cut me off and made me slow down, I would have been hella T-boned by that car.
Right.
And I'm just like, I took a highway. And my astrology reading told me not to. I don't really know where I was going with that. I was just saying that happened.
Well, and the really funny thing about that is that also around the time we were originally thinking about doing this podcast and, like, you know, outlining it and whatever, you also read in that app to avoid astrology.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that too.
And you texted it to me, and I was just like, see, it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, it's inconclusive on what a highway really is. It's basically everything. Everything's a highway.
Oh, well, that's fun.
So I should road, especially one connecting major towns or cities.
Okay, so
example, a 6-lane highway.
I really should have just not driven that day.
Just stay indoors.
Okay, anyways. So yeah, that's my little spiel. Let's read about you, Alex.
Sure.
Tell us about being a Scorpio.
My favorite thing. All right, let's do this. So, I'm like, I guess, more in the middle, kind of the beginning of the whole Scorpio season. Because Scorpios are apparently October 23rd to November 21st. So it's pretty, you know, I'm pretty in there.
Yeah, you're really in the middle of it.
So.
You're a born and true Scorpio.
I guess so. Alright, Scorpio is one of the most misunderstood signs of the zodiac.
Ooh. Which I totally agree already. I'm sorry. Because okay, here's the thing. When you meet Alex, unless she's like on a good one, like you tend to be like intimidating to people, you know? Like I feel like people don't get to know who you really are until they like get to know you. So right. I totally agree with that.
Alright, because of its incredible passion and power, Scorpio is often mistaken for a fire sign.
There you go, baby!
In fact, Scorpio is a water sign that derives its strength from the psychic emotional realm.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means, even though I specifically said earlier that I'm not into, like, you know, the fortune telly sort of things.
I have a comment on fortune telling, but I'll save it till you're done. Right. Remind me.
Like its fellow water signs, Cancer and Pisces, Scorpio is extremely clairvoyant and intuitive.
Wow. I just want to point out that you really nailed that word. Were you practicing it?
What, clairvoyant?
Yeah.
No, I was not practicing
Oh my gosh, Alex. I was stumbling over words like determined or something. Like, that is outrageous. I need you guys to know that this word is not spelled any way, like, phonetically easy.
Well, since I'm breaking it down thing by thing, I guess I'll comment on the first one. I agree in the sense that I do think I tend to be misunderstood. Mm-hmm. But that's because I'm only, like, overtly, like, over-the-top friendly if I'm in a comfortable space with a lot of people that I already know.
Right.
So I think that if you don't meet me in those conditions, I can seem a certain way, and it's totally unintentional. And I can't tell you how many times throughout my life I've been told that I'm intimidating, and it's, like, the most frustrating thing ever, because I'm like, I don't even know what you mean.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though, like, it's just really funny because I've obviously known you for years.
Right.
So I've forgotten what that whole, like, initial meeting is. Mm-hmm. So it's really funny whenever people are always, you know, and when you meet new people and people are like, ooh, you know, like, she's a little scary, and I'm just like, really?
Yeah, because, like, one of my friends from college, actually, like, I remember specifically, because she was in my sorority, but she had met me before I had joined up. Mm-hmm. And she had told me later on that she had first thought that I hated her. Which is so crazy, because I had no feelings about her whatsoever before I knew her. Mm-hmm. I didn't know, because I didn't know her. Why would I hate her when I don't know her?
Right, naturally.
But, and when I asked her, well, why do you think that? She didn't really have a compelling reason, so I guess something about, like, my natural state is, like,
intimidating or just, like, aggressive. I don't know.
I think because when I just walk around and I'm left to my own devices, I'm, like, pretty in my head. Mm-hmm. In the sense I'm not really paying attention to what looks on my face or what's around me. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm just aloof.
Maybe. I don't know. I couldn't really give you an answer.
Right.
But okay, go on.
And here's where we get into why I have issue with my particular sign.
Okay.
With the first sentence. All right. What makes this water sign unique is its distinctive venomous sting.
Okay, let's read about that.
Like their celestial spirit animal, the scorpion, Scorpios lie in wait and strike when least expected. Life is a game of chess for these calculating water signs who are constantly plotting several steps ahead in order to orchestrate an eventual checkmate. This doesn't mean their intentions are necessarily nefarious. Scorpios simply know what they want and are afraid to get aren't afraid to work hard and play the long game to get it. Some of that is fair.
I actually agree with it. Like, if you take it out of the context of, like, the sting, you know, being negative, and, like, more think of it as, like, you have a plan and you execute your plan, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And, see, this one and then the next one is my two-part problem of the problem I have with, like, being associated as, I guess, like, a Scorpio.
Okay.
Is that you get stigmatized in two ways.
Okay.
Like, how we just saw here, stigmatized in the sense of people assume that I'm kind of just a jerk.
Okay.
By being a Scorpio.
Okay.
Because that's how I've always heard, like, Scorpios being, like, you know, described, is that they're kind of the jerk sign. Which I'm just kind of like, hey, man, I'm perfectly nice.
That's funny you say that, because maybe it's always like, you know, you're more aware of, like, your own happenings. Because I feel like that's always for Aries. Like, I feel like everyone's always just like, ugh, Aries is such a jerk. They're such a hothead. Yeah. Like, anywhere I ever go, I always feel like everyone's just like, Aries? Oh, no. So I think it might just be, like, maybe just everyone feels that way. Like, everyone stigmatizes everyone.
And see, this is my point about how you just identify, like, everyone just identifies with what they read, you know, on it.
Yeah. Totally.
Anyway, so okay, my next problem with this, which I'm not going to read this out word for word because I don't want to.
Okay.
I'm going to read some of it, though. They never show their cards, and their enigmatic nature is what makes them so seductive and beguiling. And Scorpio, basically, its other hallmark, which I'm not going to get super into, is, I guess, being, like, the sex craze sign.
Okay.
Which also
hilarious.
Is irritating to me, but we'll move on. And it also says something about craving just, like, closeness and intimacy in general.
Okay.
Which I feel like is fair, but I feel like that's fair to the human condition.
Right.
Anyway. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the planet that governs both destruction and transformation. On a good day, Scorpionic energy is ambitious and enticing. On a bad day, however, the shadowy side of Scorpio is fueled by their relentless desire for control. Power-hungry Scorpios must remember that if controlled by their egos, they are at risk of poisoning themselves. This sign is the best when its intrinsic intensity is applied to deep, soulful connections with friends and lovers. When they build trust with others, Scorpios demonstrate unparalleled empathy, depth, and commitment, which brighten even the darkest parts of Scorpio's magical psyche.
I mean, okay. You know, like, I don't have much to say on it. Yeah. The one thing I do have to say is it's funny that my planet is Mars. Mars is the first planet in the solar system, right? After the sun? Or is that Mercury?
Mars is the third planet.
Oh, okay, never mind. Then my comment's irrelevant.
Okay.
Okay, go on.
Because you were going to say that we're on polar opposites?
Yeah.
Anyway. I'd love to believe that I'm empathetic. That'd be nice. That'd be a nice compliment for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I am or not, who's to say?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I say that I'm empathetic, that's, just conceited.
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I find myself to be the most empathetic person to the point where it's a flaw. Like, it's a character flaw. Because I can't handle some things. So, like, I don't think it's, like, narcissistic to say. I think it's just a trait.
I do like deep connections with people, though. That is one thing that I really enjoy. I like to form deep friendships with people.
Yeah.
I don't really have the need for just superficial friendships.
Yeah, totally. So it looks like, okay, so like these readings gave us each 4 little like bullet points of things. Mm-hmm. And it looks like the third bullet point is the only one that both of us really disagree with.
Right.
Which is funny.
Yes.
Whoever wrote that third bullet point was just off the mark.
Right.
Do you have any more comments to talk about?
I mean, I guess we'll get into that more later, because that's the whole thing. Like, I don't feel like I'm as nefarious as what Scorpios are shown to be, but I guess, like, that's the whole thing. I just don't like the idea of being so misunderstood.
But you are misunderstood. That's the whole thing about it.
I know, which is probably why it's just a little bit salt in the wound.
Well, yeah, I guess
Being
so.
told, you're misunderstood. I'm just like, yeah, dude, I've lived my own life.
Well, at least they got that. Like, they really nailed that part. Okay, so this brings us into our next little segment. So there's an app called CoStar Astrology. And it's basically like this, supposedly like the most accurate zodiac reading, whatever you can find, because it's based on like the time you were born, your date, like what is it? I even forget what you have to enter, but I know like the time you're born, your birthday obviously, and like some other things you have to enter, and it like gives you a reading based on like on these different things. So according to CoStar, my sun is in Aries. And so what the sun means is it determines your ego, your identity, or your role in life. It is the core of who you are, and it is the sign that you are naturally given from just your birth date.
Okay, so that will always just be...
It'll always be the one that you're familiar with. Okay, so according to CoStar, my sun in Aries means that I am fundamentally assertive, persistent, and courageous, naturally competitive, and fiercely independent, and I push things forward with energy and enthusiasm and persevere through anything.
I feel like those are all fair.
Which I totally agree with. Like, that's very much in my personality. Like, I'm very much like I'm going to do the most I possibly can do, and I will not fail because I will kill myself if I fail.
Yes.
What does your sun say on CoStar?
All right, so my sun also is not very nice to me a little bit. I have a fundamental urge to get to the bottom of things, which can sometimes make me manipulative or power hungry. Mm-hmm. And I have an intense passion for authenticity, real intimacy, and the truth. Which those last three things I feel like is fair.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm manipulative or power hungry in the worst of situations.
I would say I wouldn't ever characterize you as either of those things, but I do feel like you are very much like, let's get to the bottom of things. Like, you're very much like straight to the point person, you know?
Right, yes. I don't like to mess around.
Yeah, so like I agree with that. The little sub part there, I don't know so much about, but I agree with the rest of it. Okay, so, and which is kind of interesting because both of those readings are very similar to the prior reading we talked about. So maybe this, you know, like how we were saying, like, who's writing these things? You know, like maybe we actually, like, we're the fools and they did do research. Okay, so the next thing that this app tells us is our moon sign. And so what the moon is, it rules your emotions, your moods, and your feelings. And this is a sign that you yourself most think of yourself as. Like, so no, it's not necessarily what you were assigned at birth, but it's what you identify the most with. It reflects your personality when you're alone or you're deeply comfortable.
And does this one change at all, or is this one like a stagnant, this is what you are?
No, this one changes depending on, like, you.
Okay.
So my moon is in Gemini, which, according to Gemini reading, it means that my emotional self is often restless or unsettled. Totally true. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm extremely adaptable, which sometimes can make me feel pulled in too many different directions. Mm-hmm. I'm easily bored and need to feel like I am free to be creative and create meaning in my life. And I'm constantly at an identity crisis. Here's the thing. I totally agree. So my emotional, like, ability to show emotion is, like, very much, like, underdeveloped. And this is something that, like, my husband can really attest to. Like, I have such a hard time. Even you, Alex, like, we've never hugged each other, you know, like.
And here's the thing is that my moon is also in Gemini. So,
really?
Like, yeah. So, and I feel like this is, like, exactly what you're saying right here. We're both self-admittedly kind of emotionally repressed.
Yes. Oh, okay, so your reading is exactly the same then.
The moon, Gemini, yes.
Okay, perfect, yeah. And so, like, I too feel, and I feel like you too, like, I feel like I am also pulled in too many directions. Like, I take on too many tasks. Like, I was just telling you before this podcast that, like, oh, I just took another coaching job, and you're just like, don't you coach at Whittier? I'm just like, yeah, and I have a full-time job, and I'm going to class too, but this is my life.
Yeah.
You know, so I totally agree with that too. How about you?
I mean, I agree with that also. I feel like, you know, this is me being me and being cynical and, like, poking holes and whatever. I feel like this is very, I think, kind of typical, actually, for our age group and where we are in life, actually. And also for the type of people that we both are, because if we're asked by someone we care about to do something, we're probably going to do it.
Yeah.
And that is going to leave us feeling overextended.
Well, here's the thing. Going exactly to the point, it's the people that we are. But I can look at a lot of other people just around us that we're immediately friends with, and I don't find this applying to them. Like, my husband, Eduardo, all of our friends, all the boys, you know, like, none of them are they're not biting off too much, you know, like, they're doing one thing and one thing only. So, okay, and then I also really agree with, like, I'm constantly bored, and I feel like I need to be creating things, I need to be, like, doing things with my life.
Right.
So, yeah. The only thing that I'm a little bit, like, is the identity crisis thing.
Right, yeah.
I don't feel like I necessarily am having an identity crisis.
I don't believe so either for either of us. I think, you know, because especially considering the time that everyone's in right now, it's just, like, very easy to be like, what am I doing with my life? Like, having an existential crisis.
Yeah. I have existential crises all the time. Crises.
Right.
But not an identity one.
Yes.
Totally. 100.
I feel like
you couldn't have said it better.
We're pretty clear on who we are as people.
But what we're doing in this world, I don't know.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so lastly, the last thing that CoStar really, I mean, they offer, like, a lot of things, but, like, one of the things that they also, like, put and push is the ascendant sign, which is kind of another word for your rising sign. And so what this is the mask that you present to people. And it could be derived through your personal style or, like, just how you come off to people when they first meet you. And supposedly, this sign becomes less relevant as you get older. I don't know why, but that's what they say.
Right.
So my ascendant is in Libra, which means that I come across as compromising, courteous, and fair-minded, sometimes passive-aggressive, which I feel like I can get behind. If I'm being, like, self-aware, I definitely could be passive-aggressive. Like, as much as you hate to admit, like, you know, bad traits of yourself, that's totally, yeah, I could do that. I can see myself doing that.
I mean, I think we all have our times of being a little bit passive-aggressive.
Yeah, totally.
So, my ascendant, my rising, whatever, is in Scorpio.
Oh.
I'm fretting about myself.
Well, that makes sense, because the whole misunderstood thing, like, everyone thinks you're coming off as this, like, real, like, you know?
That's so funny. It's like an Inception.
That's funny, actually. I didn't know that. Very interesting.
Apparently, this is described. I come across as passionate, incisive, cunning, strategic, and perceptive. My intense and tenacious drive comes off as intimidating and powerful, if not malicious or aggressive.
Exactly what we've been saying this whole time.
I guess.
So really for you, the most important one is that moon sign. Because it's, like, the truest one, and then you're being misunderstood by the whole Scorpio reading.
Right. I'm not sure I'd come across as passionate. Maybe indifferent.
I can see that. You're very much, like, you are very moderate in a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
I don't very often express passions about things unless I feel comfortable.
But let's say hypothetically, like, okay, so, like, say you're doing a group project at school or something.
Right.
I feel like I can see you coming across as very passionate just because you're very much like, we need to get this done correctly, you know?
I can think of one person who's been a victim of that.
Shout out to you, Ricky.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's also, you know, the 1-2 punch at the end of this whole thing, the if not malicious or aggressive, which I feel like neither of those things describe me really at all.
No, they don't. But like I said, that's going with the whole misunderstood thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've talked about ourselves and, like, what our signs have read, so I don't know if you guys, our listeners, are aware of this. I know Alex wasn't aware of this when I was putting this in, but there is actually a new sign that was released, quote unquote, a few years ago, and it's called Ophiuchus? I don't even know how to say it. Ophiuchus?
I think that's probably close enough.
Something like that. And according to NASA, there is a mistake in assigning 12 signs to the calendar. Because a long time ago, when these were being assigned, the people assigning them, I don't know,
Whoever.
astrologists, whatever, were like, oh, there's 12 months, so there can only be 12 signs. But really, there was 13 signs. And so they're just like, no, we need to reevaluate this. And now there's 13 signs.
I'm glad that NASA is getting to the bottom of the real issues here.
Yeah, right. That's why they've been defunded. Anyways, so according to this new reading, my sign is Pisces. Which I think, what was my sun? What was my moon? Oh, Gemini. No, it's not. It's not that. Okay, so according to my Pisces reading, I'm very friendly. They often find themselves in the company of very different people. Pisces are selfless. They're often willing to help others without hoping to get anything back. Pisces are a water sign, and as such, the zodiac sign is characterized by empathy and expressed emotional capacity. The ruling planet is Neptune, so Pisces are more intuitive than others and have an artistic talent. Well, okay. Neptune is connected to music, so Pisces reveal musical preferences in the earliest stages of life. They are generous, compassionate, extremely faithful and caring. People born under the Pisces sign have an intuitive understanding of the life cycle and thus achieve the best emotional relationship with other beings. Wrong. Pisces born are known by their wisdom, but under the influence of Uranus, Pisces sometimes can take the role of a martyr. Martyr? Excuse me, my reading is not very strong. A martyr in order to catch the attention. Pisces are never judgmental and always forgiving. They are also known to be the most tolerant of all zodiac signs. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't identify with Pisces. I've never identified with Pisces, but maybe it's because I just didn't grow up identifying with it.
Right.
I can say I do agree with a lot of these things. The emotional stuff, not so much. But everything else I can say, like, yeah, that's pretty applicable.
And see, that's the thing. Like, you look at it, and you probably could just identify to anything. Like, you find yourself in these descriptions.
Right. Exactly.
So, apparently, according to this thing, I am a Libra, which people born under the sign of Libra are peaceful, fair, and they hate being alone. Partnership is very important for them as their mirror and someone giving them the ability to be the mirror themselves. These individuals are fascinated by balance and symmetry. They're in a constant chase for justice and equality, realizing through life that the only thing that they should be truly important to themselves is their own inner core personality. This is someone ready to do nearly anything to avoid conflict, which I know that kind of is a hallmark of my personality, not being anti-conflict. Keeping the peace whenever possible. The sign of Libra is an air sign set between Gemini and Aquarius, giving these individuals constant mental stimuli, strong intellect with a keen mind. They will be inspired by good books, insurmountable discussions, and people who have a lot to say. Each Libra representative has to be careful when talking to other people, for when they are forced to decide about something that is coming their way or choose sides, they suddenly realize that they might be in the wrong place and surrounded by the wrong people. No partner should make them forget that they have their own opinion. Planet ruling the sign of Libra is Venus, making these people great lovers. Surprise, surprise, back to Scorpio. Also fond of expensive material things. I saw that over there.
You are such a brand snob, so you cannot deny that.
Their lives need to be enriched by music, art, and beautiful places they get a chance to visit. See, that's another one of those things where it's like, you agree with some, you disagree with others. I'd like to clarify here that by brand snob, I'm not super flashy about it, but I myself, if left to my own devices, get brand name things.
Right.
Sorry about it.
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I do it too.
Right. As I guess for the other stuff, I don't agree very much with the middle paragraph because it's making me sound as if I'm very open to suggestion and don't have my own opinion about things. I don't feel like that's correct.
Yeah, I agree.
Because usually I think one of my hallmarks is that I'm particularly stubborn and I believe what I believe and that's that.
I was going to say, I feel like it's actually the opposite of that.
I'm pretty obstinate.
Yeah.
I just am who I am and that's it.
Totally.
The beginning part, I guess, kind of sounds a lot like Scorpio in the sense of, needing other people and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, agreed.
I also don't care for conflict.
Totally.
But that's only, well, mostly because in most circumstances I don't think it's worth it.
Right.
So, you know, I think all in all, as I've said before, it's just one of those things where it's just like, well, you could probably find yourself in any of these descriptions, at least a little bit, and you're always going to disagree with certain things. Like, we disagreed stuff in our own, like, quote-unquote signs, or assigned signs.
Right. It's just kind of like, exactly, like, what do you want to make of it? Take from it what you want. If it helps you, if it makes you feel like a particular way, I don't feel it being negative or destructive. I just feel like I'm not really basing my life off of it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And it's actually kind of funny because I feel like lately you've been posting a lot of Aries memes on your Instagram story.
Yeah, well, they're just funny. I just love a good Aries meme.
Because every time we were talking about this before, like, we were both kind of, we've had discussions about this between ourselves before about how we both really don't buy into the whole thing that much, and then I'll see Drea post on her Instagram story about, like, the newest, like, Aries meme and whatever. I'm just kind of like, my dude.
Because, okay, here's the thing. Like, some of them are so fun. Like, exactly what we're saying. Like, you take from it what you want.
Right.
And some of it is, like, darn on the head, you know, like, totally getting it. Mm-hmm. And so there's one particular Aries meme that just, every single time I see it, I'm going to post it.
Right.
And it's this person who, like, is sitting at a table, like, eating, like, cereal out of a bowl or something.
Right. It's
and
from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, actually.
Oh, okay, sure. I don't know. But, like, this other person comes in and, like, comes to the table where they're sitting, and then it's, like, Aries, like, when you tell them to chill out for 1 second, and the person, like, grabs the bowl and just frisbees it off down the hallway. Like, I'm like, oh, my God. Like, that is so funny. I will always post that meme no matter what.
I feel like I don't never see any Scorpio memes, but maybe that's just because I'm not looking. Like, it's not in my internet cookies.
Yeah, like, I mean, I follow some, like, horoscope pages, so that's probably why.
Yeah. So, I asked this at the risk of you probably forgetting, because as is your way.
Right.
You had a comment to make earlier about fortune telling?
Yes.
Do you remember it?
Yes, I do remember it. Good. I'm so glad you remembered it, because if you wouldn't have brought it up, it's gone. Okay, so basically, when you talked about doing this episode, I thought, like, hey, it'd be kind of fun to, like, if I can learn, like, how to, like, read, not necessarily, like, tarot cards, but, like, do a reading, and then, like, I can do a reading on the podcast.
That'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I am a big believer in spiritual, whatever you want to call it, demons, ghosts, whatever.
And we've had this conversation where I would 100% believe in demons, so
yes.
Continue.
And one of the things that, like, every single, like, priest, spiritual person who's, like, you know, like, against the fight always says is, do not open yourself up to fortune telling, crystals, like, anything like that, because you're opening the door to these demonic presences to take over.
Right, and that's why I'm super not about Ouija boards.
Oh, 100%.
Eat thyself out of here.
But that's exactly why I was like, you know what? Maybe not.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, because I'm just like, I don't want to open any door to, like, spiritual attack.
I'm 100% with you. I support this message.
Yeah, so that's why that was not included in this podcast.
That's probably for a good thing. That's a good.
But anyway, okay, so I hope you guys liked this podcast. I hope you listened to our other podcast.
Right. I think, you know, this was a good opportunity for us to be actually on the same side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Because usually we're opposite, and I'm alone on the skeptic side, but Drea joined me today.
Yeah, no,
nice.
100%. I'm not a believer of this. Since we were at the end of our podcast, I want to add a little plug for ourselves. One of our podcasts that we have released recently since our resurgence from our big hiatus, that I've noticed has not been getting a lot of love, is, I think it's episode 16, Embarrassing Stories. I think it's a title like, Yikes, That Was Embarrassing. We have, like, 1 view on it, or, like, 1 listen. And I need to tell you guys, that is such a gem of a podcast.
Eek.
You really should listen to it. Like, I promise you, like, if anything, that is the funniest one we have.
That's funny.
So I recommend you guys take a listen to that episode. And obviously every episode. Come on. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed our podcast today, and we look forward to speaking with you next week.
See ya.